detours in heaven. No rough roads along the way. I'm using my Bible for a road map. My stop is heaven some sweet day. I'm using my Bible for a road map. The children of Israel used it too. They crossed the Red Sea of destruction, for God was there to see them through. There'll be no detours in heaven, no rough roads along the way. I'm using my Bible for a road map. My last stop is heaven some sweet day. There'll be no detours in heaven, no rough roads along the way. I'm using my Bible for a road map. My last stop is heaven some sweet day. My last stop is heaven some sweet day. Thank you all. Appreciate it. We'll be back in a little while. Thank you.
You think that he's going to stay? I think he'd rather you stay here, okay? You can concentrate more if you're here. Yeah, why don't you just play? Yeah.
Welcome. Get used to this microphone here and find the right place for it. Well, we have a beautiful day here, and I'm glad to see we've got a pretty good crowd. This is the first year, I believe, we've had an FOBC meeting without rain. In fact, we always bring the rain, thunder showers, so this is the first year that we may not get any rain. But I want to welcome everybody, old members, new members. I want to thank the Cambells band here, the bluegrass band is doing a very nice job. Wonderful entertainment. What I want to do is, obviously this is an annual meeting, so I'd like to get some business done before everybody takes off. Generally, there's a lot of tendency to come over here and eat and then run, so what we'd like to do, obviously we have the election of officers, so that's something that I'd like to get done here fairly quickly. Before I do that, and before we open it up for some business, I'd like to recognize our current board and then ask some candidates that are running for House District 35 and Senate District 13 to come up here and say a few words if they would. But I would like to thank John Campbell, who is hosting this wonderful event here. John, where are you? All right. A hand for John. Celia Crosby. Celia, where are you? There she is right here. Thank you. Oscar Saad. Oscar. There you go. All right. Lisa White, another board member, is not here today, but the bulk of the workers are. I'd like to thank Bill Geen for being for his tent. Here, bringing his tent out. Without any further ado, I'd like to invite Brian Kennedy, the Democratic candidate for Senate District 13, come up here and say a few words. Now, last year, we had John Hawkins up here. I gave him the mic for 5 minutes, and I had to just about shoot him to get it away. So, I'm going to try 5 minutes here, Brian.
You don't need that long.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Marshall. I promise I won't be up here 5 minutes because I'm hungry. My wife's making my plate back there. My name is Brian Kennedy, and I'm running for the Senate for District 13. And just a little bit about who I am. I live locally here in Woodruff, just about 15 minutes down the road. My wife, Melinda, she's back there making my plate. Extra slaw, honey. And I'm a graduate of Woodruff High School, where I was student body president. We have 3 children. All of them attend school at Woodruff, School District 4. I attended Winthrop University, where I played on the men's golf team, and after college life, I entered the golf profession, where I worked at 3 local golf courses in the area, 3 Pines and Carolina Country Club, and then Cotton Creek, where I was the head pro and general manager. Left the golf business, started a business with my brother called Piedmont Power Tool, and basically I work on power tools. Instead of the workbench, fix drills, rotary hammers, anything that contractors tear up. So if you are a contractor, please keep abusing your tools, because it keeps us in business. This is a very important time for our district, District 13. I don't know if many of you realize, but this year, based on the census that was sent out this year, and there's going to be a lot of politics involved, but they're going to be redrawing a lot of lines this year. Right now, if you're not familiar with how Senate District 13 is drawn, it doesn't even look real if you see it on a map. It goes up and around, makes curves, catches little areas, but it is a fairly good line they have drawn, because we keep a lot of communities like the Reedville, Poplar Springs, Woodruff, Enoree, Packlet, Cowpens, people who share a lot of the same interests. We are all together, and I believe the consensus is that we want to stay that way. I don't think Woodruff wants to be a part of a downtown Spartanburg from the standpoint that they don't share a lot of the same interests that we do in the Woodruff or an Enoree, across Anchor, Reedville. So I know that's going to be a big area of concern. Something else that's going on with especially in this area, with the amount of industry that's coming in, how is it affecting our environment? And that's a big concern among all of us. I mean, it's great that we have the opportunity to come out, children come out and fish, and I mean, I've never caught any fish as big as they are out here. And that young lady right there, I'm going to see if I can get her on a tour guide for us all over, but she's jerking them in left and right. But it is great. I've been involved with Ducks Unlimited in Woodruff for over 12 years. I've been a past chairman. I'm the current golf chairman. And we are into the environment. We're into protecting the wildlife and protecting the environment. We want to make sure that people have places to fish. People have places to hunt and shoot ducks. I don't hunt, but I do want to protect our environment. So I know that's a big concern. Another big area we have is the educational issues, the prescription drugs for senior citizens. We're doing things for them, but obviously we have to do more. But I do appreciate any consideration that you would give me on November the 7th. I can't say I have a big political background, because I don't. But the one thing I can promise you is commitment and loyalty to this area. I've known no other home other than Woodruff. So my dedication is second to none. And when you go to the polls on the November 7th, I sure hope you remember that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. also helps not to have your opposition here too. Take a few notes. I didn't say that. I'd like to ask Gene Moore to come up. He is the candidate for House District 35 for Democrat, and apparently his opposition is also missing. So, Gene.
Thank you for the invitation today. I'm really happy to be here. I'm such a fine group of people. I've met a lot of fine people already. I'd like to meet the rest of you before we go today. I'll tell you about my background. I was born in Spartanburg, went to Spartan High, went on to Clemson. I always wanted to be a pilot, so I also took Air Force ROTC, and I was lucky enough to qualify and become a pilot. I went off to pilot training. I instructed for a while, then I flew F-4s. I flew in Vietnam at Cam Ranh Bay. I also served in Korea and Turkey, and I really enjoyed my 20 years in the military. When my 20 years was completed, I had to decide where to live, and I'd seen the world for 20 years, and I decided South Carolina was the best place to come home and raise my family. So I found a little farm outside of Woodruff, about 50 acres. I have 35 acres of trees there. And everybody wants to cut them, the loggers, but I won't let them cut them. I love my trees. I take a walk there in the afternoons. My wife Rita is here with me today. I have 3 sons. 2 have gone on to Clemson also. One is at Spartan Tech now. And I really enjoy the area. In 1985, I built Allstate Insurance there from the ground up. I had started with no customers, and now I'm in 3,000 households in the area. And I've built the business from scratch, and I've enjoyed that. So I am familiar with the problems of starting a business in the area and of the citizens. I feel the problem is economic development. Now up here, y'all probably have too much economic development. It's hurting your environment. And they were trying to put a landfill here. I understand y'all have got that a dead issue, and that was good. In the Woodruff area, we have lost several textile mills. EMC in Moore is closed down. So if you get a job now, you usually got to drive to Spartanburg or Greer or Greenville. So what we need is more economic development in the southern part of Spartanburg County and less along the I-85 corridor up in this area. And we need to preserve our environment and historic places in the area. I've had a successful career in the Air Force. I've had a successful career in the business, and I want to be your representative. And I live and work in the area. I'm committed to the area. And if you elect me, I'll be available to you and represent you well. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. I have I've forgotten the candidate here, primarily because he represents a district that is a little removed, but I'm going to ask Ed Poole, who's running for Senate District 12, to say a few words.
Thank you, sir. I'm running against John Hawkins, so I promise I won't talk as long as he does. Senate District 12 in this area comes down south of 85 over by the Greenville County line. I'm not quite sure what the community's called over there. Can somebody help me? It's due west of Greenville. It goes over to the Greenville County line. I was at the fire. Okay, well, it's further over than Sugarhead, I think. Well, anyway, somewhere over in there. I've got a few of you voters. I'm an optometrist in Spartanburg. I plan on still being an optometrist in Spartanburg. My dad was an optometrist. 2 of my brothers are optometrists in Gaffney and up in York County and in Shelby. My oldest daughter just called me on the telephone. She just bought a car with me helping her on the phone. I just bought one in California. The man wasn't treating her right, and I told her she couldn't buy it until he did, and he finally just did. She just graduated. She's an optometrist. She's coming back here. She's going to help me when I'm down in the Senate down in the wintertime. My oldest son is 6'4" and redheaded like his mama. His mama's not 6'4", but he's in optometry school. He's going to be an optometrist in 2 years. My third son is just interviewed down in Charleston, wants to go to school to be an ophthalmologist. He wants to do the surgery for us. And my fourth son, the twin, wants to go into optometry school. So believe it or not, we know a little bit about eyes. I've lived in, I was born and raised in Gaffney, lived a little bit out west. I went to California for a little while, went to school in Utah for a little while, but I've lived here in Gaffney or Spartanburg County my whole life. We have good roots in Spartanburg County. Back in the springtime, a friend of mine called me the last day of the registration for the election. He said, "We want you to run for the Senate." And I said, "I never even thought about it." I said, "You're crazy." She said, "You'll be good. You're an honest person." So I went down and started talking to him. Glenn Reese came over and talked to me. He said, "Yeah, we want you to run for the Senate." And so here I am. We decided that, and if you'll notice, the other candidates, they're all both friends of mine since the campaign. I really, really admire both of those young men. That young men, you notice that, Gene? They, for the first time, we have non-politicians that are actually running for politics. They want to, all of us want to go down there to represent you. We're just normal, common people just like you. We're both all small business owners. We all have no aspirations to do anything else. None of us have an agenda already on our mind about what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. We're just going to come out and represent the people. And I think that's refreshing. It's kind of it's kind of unique. But we would like to be able to be down and represent you guys down in Columbia. If we can help you in any way, my big area is going to be in healthcare because well, in the past we've had problems. And I know people in politics. I know Glenn Reese. And so I go down and talk to Glenn, and I can look at him as I'm talking to him. He doesn't understand what I'm talking about, the problems. It's not because he's not smart. He's just that he's not been in it. With me being a doctor for the last 27 years, I'm going to understand the problems that you're having. I'm going to be there with the governor when we start talking about the silver card, where we're going to be able to try to provide medication for retired and underemployed people. We're going to be there so that people don't have to make a choice in having to buy their medicine or being able to buy groceries. And we're going to be there when you have a problem with your insurance company. I'm going to be the man I want you to come see because I'll know how to deal with them. I want them to, when I walk in, they say, "Oh no, there comes Dr. Poole again. He's got somebody that's got a problem." We want to represent you. We want to take care of you. And if you can see to it, we'd love to have your vote on November the 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. I'm not sure he's from here. As fast as he talks, it sounds like he's from Connecticut to me.
I didn't want you to come in with a stick like you were going to with John.
I want to also recognize Todd Timmons, who's not here. Todd was the treasurer for this past year. He couldn't make it, had a conflict. I wanted also to say a few things about what FOBC has been involved in last year. It was a very eventful year. We had a successful year, quite frankly. As you all know and are pretty much aware of, we were instrumental in actually killing a road that was called the Southern Connector. For those of you that may have not heard about that, it was a road that was to have run from the Spartanburg Airport over through Spartanburg County, kind of paralleling 417 or 221, running over to Greenville County. And the first leg of that road was started, and they were working on it and went through the process that they normally go through to get these roads done. And they had the funding and everything, and we began a couple years ago to express some concerns about this road, and ultimately people started to listen. FOBC began that, and then it kind of moved over, and the people over in the Anderson Mill area heard about it, and of course it was closer to home over there because that was going to affect them initially more than it would us here. I was personally involved with this road because I sat on a committee that actually gave the contract for the P&E part of the job. The road itself was to have started south of the airport and ended at I-26 with a exchange at I-26. And then somehow it got changed to where it went under or over I-26 without an interchange and ended at Highway 290. That's when most people became very concerned about this road and where it was going to go from there. With the help of Mr. and Mrs. Charles and Betty Moore, who agreed to kind of be up front on this thing publicly, we marshaled a lot of support against this road. There were a lot of citizens from subdivisions in the Andersonville area, in the Reedville area, and we eventually got about 1,300 signatures on a petition that we presented to the SPATS, the Spartanburg Area Transportation Study Policy Committee. With that, and with the public opposition, we were successful in killing that project. And I just wanted to publicly state here that I wanted to thank everybody that is that was involved either directly or indirectly to support our effort against this road. Now, I use that's obviously an example of the types of things that an organization such as this can do, because this is viewed by politicians as a grassroots community organization. It's not viewed as an organization that supports any particular candidate. And I think its strength is derived from the fact that it is a grassroots organization. And our biggest concern is quality of life here in Spartanburg County. FOBC has grown. It's gotten bigger than the area that it encompassed when it first began. But I think it's recognized generally in the area and by politicians as a very strong organization that has a lot of power, not because they use it or try to threaten people, but because we're concerned and we voice our concerns. And I think that's the beauty of this organization. I want to, again, thank those people that were involved in that effort. Where do we go from here? I think a function of why I remember the days when Don and Bill Geen were involved, when we had clear problems and threats to our community. That's what draws people. Everything is kind of going okay right now, so there's no clear target, there's no clear threat, and that's part of the problem to get people interested in their community. I still see the threat as being unrestricted growth here in this community. Even though I am a member of the SPATS committee, an official voting member, and John Campbell is a voting member of the Planning Commission, we still represent the citizens here, and we have your interests at heart and in mind and always in the forefront. We know that the way the government works here is that builders and developers are there every day. Unfortunately, citizens are not there every day, so the pressure that county government feels is from these builders and developers, and occasionally when we have a big problem, citizens rise up and then try to deal with it, but that's usually on an infrequent basis. So the fact that this road was killed is to me proof that a citizens group such as this and a wider group that developed as a result of our alarm, so to speak, is proof that we can make a difference. So I'm trying to do a kind of a modified parliamentary thing here. I know Don is on the business thing. What I'd like to do is open the floor before we elect officers. I'd like to open the floor for any discussion on where anyone thinks FOBC should go, or where we go in the future. I have my own thoughts on that, and I would like to hear some thoughts from anybody else and have discussion if we could, if you care to.
I think that's just the appropriate place for me to have a statement if it's okay with your
I recognize you, Don. You can make a
okay.
Hello, I'm Don Rogers, and I've got something I want to present to you. I'm going to be very quick and very brief if I can. I want to speak fast, so listen. I want you to make a decision tonight. I'm going to offer you the possibility of making a decision. I'm going to give you some reasons why. I'm going to give you a little background. I'm going to show you the problem, and then it's up to you to decide if you want to take any action on it. First of all, before I do that, though, let me say that I want to thank everybody here tonight who worked on behalf of Rob Chumley in his recent campaign. Everybody that worked, and I see a lot of them here. Let's have a hand for all of these people that were working for Rob Chumley. Thank you, thank you. Now, there's a lot of you here that worked for him. You voted for him. You were in his camp all the way, and boy, what a great help that was. But I want to, if I can, just pull out of the crowd two people that particularly, and three or so, I'm not going to go down the list, but we would not have had a chance at all. We lost, by the way, if those of you are not aware, we lost by 171 votes. But if it had not been for John Campbell, we wouldn't have been in the fight. John Campbell dug deep into his pockets. He worked night and day. I mean that literally. You could have found John Campbell out at 3 in the morning, virtually, really, actually there. He wasn't awake necessarily, but he was out there putting up signs. And without John Campbell, we wouldn't have had a chance. And another fellow that I need to mention is Bill Gein. Bill Gein, again, he dug deep. He sacrificed. And without those two and the money, really the money they put in, the work they put in it. And Celia also was a very hard worker, and I see others here. I'm not going to go down the line, but appreciate your effort. Now, that brings me to the problem that I see. And I could be altogether wrong about this, and there's others in the group, some of us have discussed it, and there's others that have different opinions, and they may be right. But let me tell you what happened. I'm going to go back in history just very quickly. When we got involved, however many years ago it was, we had a big fight on our hands, and we found that, to our dismay, we were totally outnumbered. We had no power. Nobody was on our side. We didn't have anybody to represent us at Spartanburg County or state level. And we fought, and all during that time we fantasized about the hope that someday in the future we could garner some political power over here in this little corner of the district. And we worked hard to do it. We were able to succeed in those early projects, and at that time we were able to use Ty Courtney, Senator Ty Courtney. He's no longer available to us. We were able to use Steve Lanford. He's no longer available to us. We were able to use John Hawkins, who was he actually was our attorney at one time. He is no longer in our camp. In fact, he's one of the main adversaries that we need to deal with. He is trying, and his cadre of political hacks over on the other side are trying to pull things over their way. Now, what's it all about? One word: power. If you want to come out here and have these meetings and have a barbecue and a good time and fellowship, that's good, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if an organization is going to continue to grow and be vital and significant and get its aims accomplished, they do it one way: you seek power. And how do you seek power? You look around your situation and you figure out what is the best vehicles and tools to gain your objectives, whatever those objectives are. And now we had a wonderful opportunity to elect Rob Chumley, our own son, and we didn't get it done. The reason we didn't get it done is because we didn't have the formal organization that we could use to back us. The present organization is not a political organization. If we'd have had that, Rob Chumley would have been in place today, at least ready to run against the Democrat. All right? During the time we were trying to get Rob Chumley up, every time I get 2 or 3 people together, I'd say something like this: if we don't get Rob Chumley, we're going to pay the price long-term, years to come, and we're going to pay it big time. Now, was I just predicting out of a guess? No. We're talking about power. Bill Chumley, if you'll pass that around, I want everybody to take a minute. While he's doing that, we're going to talk a little bit more about the problem. Just as soon as the election was over, guess what? We learned. We learned from the present leader of Spartanburg Republican, what's his title? Rick Belchams. What's his title, somebody? Chairman. Republican Party. Chairman of the Republican Party in Spartanburg County Republican Chairman. We've got, in his own words, this leader of the county, of this of the Republicans as to what he thinks needs to be done. And you need to look this over, read his verbatim, word-for-word comments, and see if you agree that this is an agenda that you think needs to be pursued. Now, at this time, every 10 years, due to the census, we have an opportunity for what they call reapportionment. That is, those who won the elections, those who are in power, can decide where those district lines need to be drawn. We're in the midst of a new reapportionment battle right now. And what do you think would be a good thing to do in terms of reapportioning? And what do you think the victor, Phil Sinclair, wants to do? He wants to cut Reedville out of the district. He wants to cut Reedville out of the district. What does that mean? Why does he want to do that? Think about that. Let me tell you what happened in the background. This organization got so strong over here on this side of the county, people respected and people began to fear it. A group over on the other side organized, John Hawkins and others, and they said, we cannot have this. Rob Chumney had put his hat in the ring and was going to take this particular House seat. At the last minute, the third or fourth person they tried to come up with someone with one purpose in mind, to defeat Rob Chumney. They finally, after 2 or 3 turned them down, they fell upon Phil Sinclair, a lawyer in Spartanburg. He agreed, and they put all the money and backing and political skills and knowledge that were available to them throughout the state behind that candidate, and they were able to win. What's the first thing they're going to do? If you had time to read that, what does it say? Let me just, in case some of you didn't bring your bifocals with you, just a couple of comments. Let me get mine out. This is the head of the Republicans in our area. One thought I had was to put Reedville in the District 36. I don't know if we can pull it off. Reedville with Duncan, Lyman, and that area might have a better match than trying to match it with Enoree and places like that. People in Walnut Grove, Cross Anchor, Pauline precincts, they're not in House District 35 and feel like they're kind of out of the loop. Phil Sinclair mentioned that he'd like to pick up Cross Anchor. They're all for him over there, you see. They want to include those people that are for Sinclair and cut out the people that gave him the most trouble. And on it goes. Now, I'm going to read number 7. The next legislature in January will have to deal with the redistricting so that the next election will be with new lines unless, quote, listen to this, some group of dimwits decides to throw the whole thing into the Supreme Court or something crazy like that. So we now know what the leadership wants to do. We knew all along. Now, why is this a problem? Because it totally cuts this organization in half. You'll lose any power that you might have had if you wanted this power. Now, you may not want it. You may decide, no, we'd rather not do that. That's fine. That's a viable option, and I can't say, that you're wrong in that. But I do know this. If an organization doesn't change, look at the immediate situation, see what their goals are, they're going to atrophy. They're going to lose their vitality. You have to continue to change. So I'm not going to belabor the point. I just want you to see the problem. I want you to understand a little of the background behind it. And from my viewpoint personally, I'm just presenting the problem to you. And I have no personal reason to be in it. So, in fact, I do not want to be on the board. Okay? At some point along the line before this is over, when we get to new business, I'm going to offer a decision for you to make.
Thank you, Don. Do I understand you to say that you're going to offer a motion for discussion, or do you want discussion now?
Well, whenever we get to the new business part of the meeting, I'm going to offer a
motion. Well, the motion.
Offer a motion that this. Well, when we get to it, I'll make it.
Okay, let's do this now. I will give you the floor to make that motion, since we are in the new business. Okay. The only business we have tonight is basically the election of officers and this motion. After you offer the motion, I'll open for debate or discussion. Okay. If you would state your motion.
I make a motion that the Friends of Ben's Creek, by vote, make a decision to change the bylaws of the organization to a political organization, a political action committee, so that you would be free to enter into the arena of politics where all the power is and decide the issues that you're for and increase the power of the organization. I'm not saying you want to be partisan, but if you'd like to have more power, I would suggest that you consider that.
Okay, motion being made, correct me if I'm wrong, essentially the motion being made to change the bylaws of the Friends of Ben's Creek to make it a political action committee, essentially.
Can't hear you.
We're talking about. We're making this, the motion
Speak up.
is that Friends of Ben's Creek change its bylaws to be a PAC, Political Action Committee. Do we have any debate on that? Anybody who wants to make a statement? Well, I think that Don making the motion made that argument. I don't want to make it for him. I have an opposing view, quite frankly, so I'm going to hold mine in reserve. Does anybody else want to speak on this issue?
I'd also like to hear the downside, like the tax ramifications to the organization.
Well, obviously, if it's a PAC, there's no 501c3 status, and we lose our tax-exempt status. So.
I'd also say that I would personally question if we would have more power. I think that we may lose power and that we become a political organization and are looked upon as a political organization as opposed to being the citizens who are working for their community, as opposed to citizens working on political issues. I would also say that I think we had quite a bit of growth and pull because we were not viewed as a political organization and that we worked as a grassroots group for the community. I think it would change the entire flavor of the organization and definitely would change the purpose for which it was formed initially, which was, I think it would completely change.
Any other comment?
Could I make a comment? Yes. Could I do it over the microphone? I'm Bill Geen. I'm former past president of Ben's Creek and former chief financial officer for 4 years at Friends of Ben's Creek and a charter member of the board. What Don is telling you is a straight stuff. There are political action committees that aren't necessarily for politicians. There's a political action committee to conserve the Virginia Eagle. There's a political action committee called We the People, who wants democracy in this country, and they don't care whether it's a Democrat or a Republican that they push around, get into office, and get promises made. So this is not partisan. This is not Republican. This is not Democrat, what Don is proposing to you. There are other organizations called, a PAC called Government is Not God. I could go on and on and on. PACs, PACs, were created by the legislature in the late 70s because they realized that the people, like us, didn't have any power. Whereas people like labor unions and people that are organized, they had all this power to political power to wield in getting their agenda across. Okay, so that's all Don is proposing here, is to get into an arena where you can say what you want to say in your newsletter. You can go ahead and say it. You don't have to censor yourself in a board meeting before you issue a newsletter out to all the members. So, that's the short of it. If you've got any questions, you need to ask them now. But I just wanted to show you all that this is not just a political group. Thank you, Bill. Any other comments? Any other, before we rule?
motion's on the floor to change the bylaws. I'm asking for any more debate. You second the motion? Okay. So the motion being seconded. All in favor of changing the bylaws to make Friends of Ben's Creek a political action committee, so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All in favor, all opposed to that, say nay. Show of hands then. We'll have to have a show of hands. All in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Somebody else count behind me, okay? Everybody, I counted 26. Raise your hands up again real high. Did somebody else count? Did somebody count?
You get 24. Let's do the opposed. All opposed, raise their hand. Okay, the ayes apparently have it. With that, this body has been changed, and the next order of business is, yes, Harold.
What you just did, you brought up something that nobody had thought about or talked about or anything. And sort of a pushy type. So you should have been going to do something like this. You should have put it out to the members to let them know what you're anticipating doing so they can do some homework and study to see if it's good for the organization.
I agree. I'm opposed to it. The problem is that we have a motion on the floor, and unfortunately we don't have the execution here because we're not going to have any officers. Apparently, I understand that certain people don't want to run that are for this thing, so it'll be interesting.
Explain to them the 501c3.
Well, basically, a contribution to this organization is tax exempt, whereas you can't do the same with let me ask a CPA here.
A 501c3 is exempt for income taxes except for certain activities that are profit-making. I'm not sure the Political Action Committee. Perhaps somebody else could address that.
Could you give us your name?
My name is Amy Robichaud. I'm a CPA. I work for Deloitte & Touche in Greenville. I'm Marshall's wife.
Oh, okay.
I am. My parents on Drummond Road. We live in. Yeah, it's done. It's done.
Okay, next order of business then, election of officers. Do I hear any nominations from the floor?
Before you do that, let me just make one comment. Let me just say this. Since I'm the one that brought this thing up, I would not in any way want this to be done unless it was going to cause any dissension. Now, we've always had disagreements in this group before, and we put them aside and worked on them. And I don't want to take the responsibility for doing this because, first of all, I'm not ready to put in the work that I did in the previous effort that we had to undertake. So I don't want to do that. And there has to be others that will move this thing forward besides me. Now, John Campbell over there has been the workhorse of this organization. He's been the glue that held it together. And John Campbell is very cool on this idea. He was last time I talked to him. He still is. But I can tell you, John Campbell, that since it's the vote of majority, John Campbell will be penalty for whipping it. But I can tell you this, the reason we're in this defensive posture and they've got the axe over our head is because we were not political. We were not assertively, aggressively political. That's why we're here in this difficult situation. And I'm not saying because of that we should necessarily, this is the way to go. It's the way I think we ought to go. But please don't come later and say, well, you're the one that suggested, man, you got to make it happen. Because if you're thinking that, it ain't going to happen. I'm just offering it as a suggestion.
If we've opened the floor for further discussion, I know the motion's been made and voted on. I want to ask a question about whether or not the bylaws can be changed with the vote. Is that a present majority vote or majority of the members? I'm just asking the question. Present. Okay. Since you've had your comments, I know it's after the fact. I'm going to make my comments anyways. All right. I see that as the death of this organization. There is no more FOBC, in my view, if we go down this road, because the power we wield is because we are apolitical. It is from the grassroots organization that it occurs. The fact that we're viewed as concerned with our community, not with this politician or this candidate or that candidate. Now that's something that you need to make a decision on in terms of who you're going to vote. That's an election. We all have supported certain candidates, but to make FOBC a PAC is the death knell for this organization.
Why?
I believe, Don, that to me, we have no power. Once we become a political action committee, we have no power because we are seen immediately as taking a side. We don't take sides when we are an issue-driven organization. That's the difference.
The fact is, the average person out there wouldn't know what our bylaws are anyway. They don't have any idea what our bylaws are. It just gives us an opportunity. It gives us a tool to use if we decide we want to use it. It can lie there latent, We don't have to change
Well, I think that what happens, though, is once viewed as a PAC, quite frankly, you are not viewed the same as you would be if you were a grassroots organization. That's my own personal view. I think that, quite frankly, if we go forward with this and we do change our bylaws as voted on, that'll be the end of FOBC. So that's my view.
Don, can I just ask a question? Because I've seen PACs that usually with big, not common organizations. What precludes FOBC taking on certain issues without being a PAC?
Well, I can give you an immediate and tangible example. The reason FOBC as a group did not help us get Rob Chumney elected was because of this legal limitation that we were not a PAC. And that's why we did not get involved, and that's why we lost.
So it precludes us, being a PAC allows us to give money to candidates. Is that?
Being a PAC allows us to make political statements on behalf of any candidate we want to and to work for him any way we want.
Or issue.
Our issue is not necessarily, probably is not going to be a candidate in most cases, unless it's our own son here that we're trying to get elected. Typically, we're going to go out and find out what the politicians are against us, which ones are first and which ones are against us, and we're going to promote them, whether Democrats, Communists, or Republicans. And we just learned the hard lesson that we, in fact, and when we got to the one opportunity after years of work where we could marshal some real political support, we didn't do it because of the fact we were not a political action committee. So the reason we're here, having on the defensive, lost our chance, and now we got reapportionment hanging over our heads to cut ourselves, sever us from our political base. The reason we got to this state is because we were not politically active. This is only one, I don't care, you're talking about we want to be grassroots. Grassroots is synonymous with being politically active. The reason we won what we won was because we were politically active. You can call it what you want to. We won because we were involved in the political arena. and this just unties our hands. I can tell you this right now, our opposition on the other side, if they could hear this debate going on, they wouldn't believe it. And if they realize, they don't realize that FOBC was not really involved in Rob's election in a, in a concerted way. They think that they had whipped FOBC. They knew that we were going to remove our power, or going to tie one arm behind our back so that we couldn't be fully engaged. They'd say, first of all, what are those people thinking about? But we're sure glad they're not thinking. That's the way I see it.
Marshall, can I say something? I'm the only citizen I know of that was on the land use committee. And I don't want to take much of your time. I don't feel like I deserve much. But I do want to say this to kind of, and I'm not voting either way on that because I don't think I'm allowed to vote. But I do want to say this so people can think kind of outside the box about, you said, well, you know, you should still vote for, of course, who we want to. And that should be everybody's own private decision who they vote for. But in Spartanburg County, that decides what happens to your land, it is very, very political. Because our Spartanburg County or Spartanburg County Council is made up of all Republicans except for one Democrat. The one Democrat that we have is not at all politically active. She is not involved in land use issues or pretty much anything else. She is a Democrat, and she's a wonderful lady, and I love her very much. But she is not involved. So therefore, you've got almost 100% of your Spartanburg County Council that are Republicans. Now, nothing's wrong with that because I'm a Republican. But since Beltram has been brought up here, Rick Beltram, I do want to bring up the fact that during this past year and during this election, or before the election really, before the primary, there was a land use committee that was put together of almost entirely developers. Now, do you know how those developers got put on that land use committee? It was Spartanburg County Council Chairman that chose who got put on the land use committee. She chose Frank Nutt, okay, as the chairman, and Hugh Atkins as the vice chairman. And you all know the history there. John Hawkins happens to be a very good friend of his. All right. He was not on the land use committee, but that's okay. He was their voice in the House of Representatives for this land use committee and to pass legislation that needed to be passed so that they could cut out what little protection we have here. That ordinance started out to be a very good ordinance. I was really excited about it. The designer of that ordinance was excited about it. And I sat in that land use committee for almost a year and watched those developers take out every single bit of protection that Reedville had, or any Woodruff had, or any other part of Spartanburg County had. Those developers in that committee that your county council chose. I just happened to look up and get on there, but I was the only citizen trying to fight all these developers, and it was a downhill battle because when I brought up the fact that certain things they were doing about chopping up that ordinance was against federal regulations, Frank Nutt made the statement, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. If we ever get audited, then we'll pay the penalty. But I'm changing the regulations. So it was chopped up. We have a very beautiful land use ordinance now. We have less protection than we had before. So I want all of you to be aware that when you don't have a voice, you really don't have a choice. And without being able to get the right people in office that will stand up for land use preservation and protection, you don't have a chance in Greenville. Because I can tell you right now, stacked. They stacked the last election, and that's why Rob did not get in. When somebody said that, that's exactly right. They handpicked the candidates that were to get in, and Beltram was the hatchet man for the Republican Party. And he managed to take what few people there were that would have protected your community, and he did a hatchet job on it. And John Hawkins was helping. So I just want everybody to know that if you don't choose the right candidates to go in, you're not going to have any protection in this community. However you get that choice, however you go about getting that voice, it's up to you however you vote. But you do need a voice in who goes in to the county council and to the House of Representatives and to the Senate.
You mean to tell me they was gonna go to college?
It will under this next.
Harold?
There's a meeting
may I
tomorrow
make
at
a statement?
5:30 at County Council, and some of the issues that's going to be brought up is going to be on the land use ordinance, a third reading on it, and you should be there. Also, on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, the Spartanburg County Republican Party will have a meeting at the county council chamber at 7 o'clock. So if you want to go in there and say something, you'll be there.
Thank you. Who was it that wanted to?
Yeah, I want to make a statement on this PAC thing. I have been a member of an organization who has a PAC committee. They collect money for PAC. They don't support any particular candidate. They are working in Washington, and they only go to support the things that are for the postmasters. They do not support any particular candidate at all because they don't have to. Not as being a PAC. They only want what they want that is good for the postmasters. And they have an active PAC organization.
Any other discussion? Okay, I want to go on to the next business, is election of officers. Do we have any nominations from the floor for president position?
Why don't you start at the other end, Marshall, and get up to
At
the president last? Yeah, at large, yeah.
All right, let's go at large then. Do we have any nominations for at large? We've got to have 3 at large positions.